Okay, sheet 2, cutting plan. So you have to start building the patterns. Okay, here in this problem there are 16 patterns. Okay, and you have to arrange these widths. Okay, so the cutting stock width of the roll, raw material roll, is 50 inches. Now we sell cuts in these widths: 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 and 40. And here are the demands. Demand for each size. So we have to develop a carefully prepared list of patterns. You should not miss any pattern, and you should not repeat the same pattern a second time. Okay, so you need to arrange this from the smallest width to the largest width, and then start building the largest number of widths that you can cut in a 50-inch roll starting from here. Okay, and then gradually reduce the number of cuts that you can have for each width. So for example, here the maximum that you can have is 5, and when you cut 10 inches, then you will have nothing left over, so it is simply 5. So this will be just simply 5 for the first one. So which means the waste will be, so waste is width minus the sum product of the number of cuts and the cut width. So the widths available. Okay. So that's our first pattern. Now the second pattern, so you need to, if you follow this logic, this methodology carefully, then you will not do the mistake of either missing a pattern or repeating the same pattern that we had before. So we have to be very careful. The next is you reduce 5 by 1. So start from the maximum and then gradually come down. So instead of 5, if you cut 4 of these 10, what happens is that you will be left with, so 4 10 inches are cut out of the 50, then the waste that is left is actually another 10 inch. So cutting 4 10 inch is same as you wind up with 5 10 inches. So you cannot have 4 10 inch cuts, because that would be same as 5 10 inch cuts. So now you have to come down next to 3. So 3, so when you do 3, you're left with 20. So no, don't go to 20 right away, okay, because you need to gradually go from left to right and top to bottom. So from 3, now you see how many maximum number of 15s you can have from the remaining width. So if you cut 3 10 inches, you're left with 20, so which means that you can have one of this, and that will leave you with a waste of 5, which is waste. That's it. Now we'll go to the next level. So this will be 3, and now from 1 you come down to 0. Okay, and then you that will be left with 20. So you can put a 1 here for 20. So that's the third pattern, and then you have to keep building the pattern gradually. So go ahead and build the pattern. So you need to go from left to right, and as you go to the right, you always don't go too far to the right. Come down, you need to exhaust all possible cuts. So 3 and 1, then next should be 3 and 0. So if you had 3 and 2, then you should try next. Once that is exhausted, 3 and 1. Then once that is exhausted, then you should do 3 and 0. Once that is exhausted, then you go back to here and go down from 3 to 2. Okay, and so on. So that's how you must slowly build the unique patterns. Okay, so you need to go, So this is our integer column. This is not binary, this is integer. And you need to do a sum product here of how many of each of these patterns we're going to cut with each column. So that will give us how many cuts of each size we will have. And these size cuts, how many we have in each size, must be at least equal to the number of cuts we need. So this size is required. And the number of rows cut is simply sum of this column. So we need to minimize this with the number of cuts that we will be making at least equal to the demand, and of course this should be integer column.